A lot of people don't agree with me, but kicking power still matters in the modern game. Let me explain. The two most common electronic scoring systems are KPMP and Dedo. With KPMP, you're using proximity sensors. So this means if you kick hard enough, even if they block, you could still score. On the other hand, Dedo is a magnet-based scoring system. So to score, your kicks gotta be strong enough to dig those magnets into the chest gear for the sensors to register. And that's why power still matters. Not just for damage, but to make sure that the kicks you throw actually score. And today, I'm gonna show you exactly how to 5x your kicking power. And more importantly, how to kick hard without losing speed and control. All right, so I'm gonna break this down into 3 different parts. And the first part is going to be your base strength. And the reason you need your base strength is because if you have a strong foundation, you'll be able to throw those kicks with power without losing any speed or control. But if you're lacking in that base strength, you're leaking power before your feet even leave the ground. So before we get into the exercises that you need to complete in order to raise your base strength, first we need to find out specifically where you're at. So we're going to focus on 2 main parts of our body. The first part of our body is going to be our ankle and arch of our feet. And then the second is going to be our core and our glutes. Let's get into it. All right, so let's test your ankle and feet first. So in order to test your feet, we're going to open up our toes and spread and then dig them into the ground so we're kind of gripping and engaging our arches. From here, we're going to do a calf raise, but I want you to really be pushing through that big toe and make sure that you don't lose balance and your ankles aren't pushed off to the side. From here, I'm staying as high as I can, and I want to see if I can maintain this position for 1 minute without losing balance or without my ankle falling to the side like this. If you can, then you have a good foundation. But if you can't do that, that's where we really need to work on. The second test I want you to do for your feet and ankles is going to be a single-legged hold. So we're going to go back to that same position, but this time I'm putting 95% of my weight on one side, and I want to see if I can hold that for at least 20 seconds without losing my balance or my ankle rolling off to the side. The reason we need to be able to keep our balance on one side is because Taekwondo is a kicking sport. So I got to make sure that after I throw that kick or while I'm throwing that kick, I'm able to create a nice base with this bottom foot and I'm able to land on the ball of my foot without losing balance. For a side view, I'm going to show you one more time. I have both of my feet straight. I've spread my toes, grip the floor, come up, and then I'm leaning over to one side and I don't want to be losing my balance. I don't want to be wobbly. I want to keep a nice stable base. All right, so next we're going to jump into your core and your glutes. Before we get into our baseline strength that's needed for Taekwondo, I want to test to see if you have the correct mechanics to even start working on your power and your strength. So I want you to get into a squat position. Your feet are nice and straight, shoulder length, and you're going to engage your core. And from here, you're dropping into that squat and you're coming back up. And we're looking for 2 main things. The first thing is, can you keep your core engaged for the entirety of the squat? So what I mean is, if you're in the squat position and you can engage your core and you come down and you feel like your core is no longer engaged, you feel it in your lower back, and you come back up and you feel like it's floppy, that's a no-no. For the glutes, when you come to the bottom of this squat, right? Your glutes are in this stretch position. When you come up, can you feel the thrust and the contraction in that glute? You could check that with your hand or you could just feel it with your body, but you need to be feeling it primarily in your glutes. If you feel it in your lower back or you feel it in your knees, you know that the mechanics of your squat is incorrect and you need to work on that first. So now that we tested your mechanics, now we're going to test your baseline strength. So for me, I personally weigh about 74 kilograms, and over here I have 74 kilograms on the rack. What you want to be aiming for baseline is to at least be able to do 10 reps for 3 sets of your body weight without feeling too much of a struggle. If you can complete that, then you want to be working to move up to at least 1.5 times your body weight, especially since Taekwondo is a leg heavy sport. So let's get onto the rack first. We're going to come over here. And just like earlier, I want to make sure that my core is nice and engaged so I have a good foundation and my lower back is not at risk. From here, I'm aiming to use my glutes when I get to the bottom of the squat. Again, earlier, we don't want to feel it in our quads and our knees. We want to be aiming to use our core and our glutes. So we're going to come down nice and slow. I get to my bottom range and I'm going to contract through the glutes, and I'm gonna make sure that I feel it. So again, I'm coming down, nice and controlled, core is nice and tight, and from here, pushing through the glutes. Again, we wanna be aiming for at least 10 reps for 3 sets of your body weight, and if you can complete that, then you wanna move up to 1.5. So now that we've covered testing your baseline strength, I wanna work on how to improve it, and I'm gonna provide the exact exercises to do just that. So for the ankle and the arch, I'm gonna give you 2 different exercises. One is going to be the seated calf raise with a hold, and the second is going to be a standing calf raise with a hold. So these are both isometrics. So what I want you to do is see if you can come up on to the balls of your feet with the heels nice and high when you're doing these holds. And I want you to hold it for at least 10 seconds for 10 reps throughout 2 to 3 sets. The reason we want to be doing these isometrics is so we could really work out not only your arch and your ankle, but also get that Achilles to be nice and strong. All right, so now moving into your core and your glutes. So I have 4 different exercises prepared for you, and the first 2 are going to be isolated. So we're focusing on our glutes first, and that's going to be working with the hip thrust. I want you to try and contract your glutes when you come to the top, hold for 2 seconds, and then control on the way back down. You're going to aim to do about 12 reps for 3 sets, and then gradually increase the weight. The next isolated exercise is going to be the wall push dead bug. And you're going to focus on keeping your elbows nice and square, pushing through the wall, and contracting your core before you even start the movement. You want your lower back to stay on the floor, and you're going to control your leg going all the way down and coming back up. For this is going to be a lot harder if you're just starting off, so we're going to go for 6 reps, 2 sets. Next, for the compound movements, we have both our squat and our deadlift. And just like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you could really stay stable through that core foundation the entire time. And then when you get to the bottom of the lift, you want to be exploding through your glute, not your knees or your quads. For these, I want you to aim for 8 to 10 reps for 3 sets. And we're going to start off with our body weight, gradually moving up to 1.5. All right, so now that we've covered base strength, we're going to jump into kicking mechanics. The reason why most people feel like the kicks are weak is because they're trying too hard with the wrong mechanics. So a lot of people, they try to use their lower back and their quads and their hip flexors, and it looks something like this, right? But what you want to be doing is aiming to create a nice kinetic chain and good mechanics so that when you throw your kick, it really flows through. When you think of like a whip, right? All of the power is at the end of that tip. But where is it really generated? It's generated at the handle. So same thing with your kick. It's got to be generated from the start, the base, and transferred fluidly through, just like the whip, so that when you go and throw it, it's nice and smooth. You use at least effort as possible, but the impact is nice and strong. So from here, I'm throwing through and I'm flowing. Now, what does that chain look like? I want you to think from the bottom up. From here, I'm going to start off with my toes and my arch pushing into the floor. I'm really popping off of the floor using that springiness. After that, it has to be transferred somewhere, right? So it's going into my calf. After that, flowing from the calf into my hamstrings and my quad, transfer it into my glute. And then from there, I have to keep a nice tight core so I can transfer all of that energy that I just created into this kicking leg. And then from there, it's going through fluidly, just like the whip we talked about earlier. So instead of focusing on this kicking leg, where I'm going to be using all of my hip flexor if I try to kick hard like this, I'm focused on this supporting leg. I'm focused on really popping off the floor, getting that nice spring. And then from there, I want to make sure that everything is literally like a line that's drawn through my body. Everything is engaged. So is my calf engaged when I pop off? Is my quads and my glutes and my hamstrings feeling it when I'm supporting and I'm twisting? And then is my core nice and tight so all of that energy is transferred through my body into this? So I'm going to show you again, right? If I'm able to do that, I'm able to pop off the floor and get a nice chain of connection from here. All of that power is transferred. Whereas if I just use, I want to kick hard, and I use these hip flexors over here in the front, then even if I kick hard, it's not going to create any impact. So we covered the roundhouse kick. Now let's cover the cut kick. Same thing as I was talking about earlier. If you just try to throw the kick hard and you're focused on this kicking leg, then it's going to be very quad dominant and it's going to look something like this. Like this. Or I could snap it out, right, with multiple cuts like this, right? But I don't have my full chain and my full body working together fluidly, so I'm not creating as much power and force as I potentially can. When you go to score and dig those magnets into the chest guard with dedo, or you're trying to kick through guard on KPMP, you need to be able to be utilizing your entire body so you have the highest chance to score. So from here, we're gonna be not focused on the kicking leg, we're focused on this supporting leg. Am I loading up before I kick? Am I pushing through my arch and my ankle? Is it coming up and popping? Is my calf over here, is it contracting when I come to the top? And am I really getting that pop through the quads and the glutes to create a nice spring through? Once I get through here, I want to also be making sure that all of that energy that I just created, it's coming through my core and my obliques, and I'm coming through full extension, not through just my quad over here, but I'm pushing out this kicking glute as well. If you can do that, then it should look something like this. So from here, I'm getting through all the way through. I'm almost like a slinky. I'm nice and tight and I'm compressed, and then from here, I'm extending. I'm using all of that pop. Whereas if you're not, look something like this. So you see the big difference, right? You want to be able to create that chain so it's utilizing all of the energy that you created from this side, drawing the line through across your body and extending through to the end of that cut so you could score. So now that we've covered kicking mechanics, we're going to talk about competition mechanics. These are two different things. Earlier, we focused solely on power. For the competition mechanics, there's going to be specific times where I have to tweak what I just talked about. I have to tweak those principles so I can get those points on the board. So for example, right, if I come to the clinch, we talked about creating a nice kinetic chain earlier, right? If I come to the clinch, sometimes I have to break those rules. If I see a spot on the back, maybe I don't engage my glutes, I keep my hips out and I score it fast. If I see his cover is down here, maybe I don't get through that entire chain and I cut it off tight so I can scrape the whole glute. Same thing with my cut, right? Earlier we talked about getting a nice straight cut, pushing off from here, but then sometimes if I want to get a little trick shot and get those points on the board, I could break the rules just like that. But that's only going to be in the specific times where I see a small window and an opportunity to score, and I take it. Other than that, we're going to be talking about how to apply the nice kinetic chain that we just talked about into most of our competition kicks. And first, we're going to be talking about the back leg when you go to throw it like a floater or like an under kick. So what do I mean by floater? Earlier, we talked about just creating power. So from here, boom, I'm going through and I'm staying in my place, right? And I create a nice pop up from here and I kick and I score that point, right? Or I'm hitting the target. But in modern day Taekwondo sparring, right? I can't just be standing here waiting for him to be in my range and I just throw it and he's not going to just let me kick. He's going to lift up his front leg. He's going to try and tap me as well, right? So I got to be able to float with my kick. And what do I mean by that? I'm at a little bit of a farther distance and I'm throwing this kick and my bottom foot is sliding with me as I go through the kick. So I'm kind of floating in midair. So from here, I'm coming in. Now, when I go to throw that, right? My front foot, I don't have the time in real game to kind of create that little pop off the floor, like almost like Muay Thai, like I come up like this, and I don't have the time to really create that big motion. In competition, you gotta be able to minimize the amount of motions and kind of giveaways that you have that you're going to throw the kick. So from here, right, before I throw it, I'm not going to be pivoting. I'm gonna be keeping this front heel up, and as I throw it, I'm going to be pivoting through the kick in midair. For this back foot, right, I'm not going to be coming through like this and I'm not going to be turning through and creating that full chain like earlier. I'm going to slightly condense the movement so then that way there's no giveaway that I'm kicking beforehand, and then afterwards as well, there's no giveaway or there's no really loophole where I'm landing like this, boom, and I'm just standing in place. I'm throwing it and I'm shutting it down just like competition rules require me to do. So, right? I'm not here. I'm not going boom, big power kick. I'm condensing the movement a little bit. There's not really any giveaway that I'm going to kick. And from here, right, I see the opportunity, I come in. Now, for an under kick, right? Earlier, we talked about pushing through, keeping our body nice and straight up, right? But for the under kick, right, I got to be able to lean. But since we already know how to create power correctly through that kinetic chain, right? I just have to keep that in mind. So if I see the cut coming and it's in the air right over here, right? I'm not going to see the cut and I'm gonna go boom because I'm gonna get caught with that cut. But what I can do is focus that I have a nice strong base on the bottom, right? And then I'm gonna push through this back glute as well. And when I come under the kick, I wanna make sure that my core is tight, just like we talked about earlier. So instead of going like this and just using my hip flexor, right? I'm gonna make sure that I push through the floor, create a nice base, keep my glutes nice and contracted, and focus on my core so I could extend through and score that under kick. Now, if you want to learn more about the modern day sparring game, because it's not all about power, it's about the electronic system, it's about reading your opponent, it's about the timing. Check out the video over here, my 5 steps to master Taekwondo kicks.